70% of your immune system isn't in your bloodstream. It's not in your lungs or your skin. It's wrapped around your intestines. That single fact changes what calming inflammation actually means. Most advice focuses on what you eat. This video is about something almost nobody covers. 8 daily habits, none of them about food. Each one shown to shift how your gut communicates with the rest of your body. Sleep, movement, stress, timing, connection, sunlight, even how carefully you chew. All of it reaches your gut, whether you've ever thought about it or not. 8 habits, documented in real research, each one shown to calm the same inflammatory pathway running underneath nearly every condition already discussed on this channel. That's what this video is about. None of this requires a diagnosis to matter. Whether you feel fine today or already manage a chronic condition, this system runs in the background either way. Think of it less as a treatment plan and more as the operating conditions your gut runs under. Every single day, regardless of what else is happening. Here's what most people believe about gut inflammation. Eat better. Cut the processed food. Add more fiber. That's the whole conversation most of the time. None of that advice is wrong. Food matters enormously, and this channel has spent a dozen videos proving it. But food is only one input reaching your gut. Your daily rhythm, the hours you sleep, the way you move, who you talk to, all of it reaches the same bacterial population and immune tissue that food does. Here's what that advice leaves out. Your gut doesn't distinguish between a stress hormone and a meal. Both are chemical signals arriving through your bloodstream. Both shape whether your gut's enormous resident immune system stays calm or turns reactive. This matters specifically after 50. Sleep architecture changes with age. Social circles often shrink. Daily movement frequently declines. Every one of those shifts is usually discussed as a quality of life issue, rarely as a gut issue. But the same bacterial population responding to your food is responding to all of it, every single day. Here's the part that changes the entire conversation. This isn't about replacing good nutrition. It's about 7 other daily inputs running in parallel with food that shape the exact same inflammatory pathway. Most people manage 0 of them on purpose. This video walks through 8 specific ones, each with real research behind it. There's a second layer worth naming directly. Even people eating carefully, following every food-based recommendation on this channel, are often working against themselves through sleep, stress, or isolation. Diet alone cannot outrun a system under constant pressure from every other direction. There's a practical reason this gap persists in most health advice. Food is easy to measure and easy to package into a recommendation. Sleep, stress, and social connection are harder to quantify, harder to turn into a checklist, and easier for any single conversation to skip. That's not a failure of intent. It's simply what happens when complexity gets compressed into a 5-minute appointment or a headline. A nutrition label exists for nearly everything you eat. Nothing comparable exists for last night's sleep or this afternoon's stress level. Both are shaping the exact same system that label is trying to inform. That gap is exactly why this video treats these 8 habits with the same specificity normally reserved for food. Not vague encouragement to sleep more or stress less. A concrete mechanism and a realistic version of each one, ready to start this week. The question worth sitting with is simple. Which daily habits actually calm that inflammatory pathway? And how well documented is the evidence behind each one? Think of your gut's immune tissue as a control room, constantly receiving reports from every system in your body. Food is one report. it's far from the only one. Here's the shared mechanism connecting today's 8 habits. Your gut lining is a single layer of cells, sealed together by structures called tight junctions. When those junctions stay tight, your gut lets nutrients through and keeps everything else out. When they loosen, a state often called increased intestinal permeability, bacterial fragments leak into your bloodstream more easily. Multiple daily inputs influence how tightly those junctions stay sealed. Sleep and circadian rhythm, physical movement, stress hormones, the timing of your meals, even your social environment. Each one sends a distinct chemical signal that either supports or weakens that seal. There's a second shared thread. Your gut bacteria themselves run on a roughly 24-hour cycle, rising and falling in predictable waves tied to your sleep-wake pattern and meal timing. Disrupt that rhythm consistently through irregular sleep or unpredictable eating windows, and the cycling itself becomes disordered, independent of what you're eating. It's worth being precise about what varies across today's 8 habits. Some, like exercise and meal timing, have direct human trial evidence measuring gut bacteria before and after an intervention. Others, particularly chronic stress, rest on well-established mechanisms in animal models. The human evidence is real, but more correlational. This video stays honest about that distinction, habit by habit, rather than presenting all 8 as equally proven. There's a timing question worth answering honestly, too. None of these 8 habits work as a single dramatic reset. Tight junctions and bacterial populations respond to daily repeated signals. Not one good night of sleep or one calm afternoon. That's not a discouraging detail. It means small, boring consistency outperforms occasional intensity here. The same pattern already true for every food covered on this channel. One more mechanical detail worth understanding before moving into the 8 habits themselves. Tight junctions aren't a fixed structure, built once and left alone. They're proteins your body actively rebuilds and maintains constantly in response to the signals reaching them. That's precisely why daily habits matter here, in a way a single dramatic change never could. You're not repairing a wall once. You're influencing an ongoing maintenance process that never actually stops. That's exactly what today's 8 habits have in common. Each one reaches your gut lining or your gut bacteria through a distinct documented pathway. None of them require a single dollar spent or a single new food purchased. Habit 1. Protect a consistent sleep schedule. Your gut bacteria and your sleep cycle influence each other directly in both directions. Disrupted sleep changes which bacterial species thrive. An altered bacterial population, in turn, appears to influence sleep quality itself through compounds these bacteria produce. Research published in Nature Communications tracked this relationship directly. Chronic sleep disruption and circadian misalignment measurably increase intestinal permeability and inflammation. This isn't a single, isolated finding. Multiple research teams using different methods, including genetic analysis, converged on the same bidirectional relationship between sleep and gut health. The mechanism connects directly to what was explained earlier. Irregular sleep disrupts the same 24-hour cycling your gut bacteria depend on, independent of anything you eat. A consistent sleep and wake time, even on weekends, appears to matter as much as total sleep duration here. Sleeping in by 2 or 3 hours on weekends, a pattern researchers call social jet lag, disrupts this cycle. Similar to crossing time zones regularly without ever leaving home. Going to bed within the same 1 hour window most nights is a realistic, achievable version of this habit. This doesn't demand a rigid 9 o'clock lights out rule. It means noticing whether your bedtime routinely swings by 3 or 4 hours across a typical week, then narrowing that range where you reasonably can. Habit 2. Move your body daily, not just occasionally. Physical movement reaches your gut bacteria directly, independent of any dietary change happening alongside it. A randomized crossover trial studied this specifically in older adults. 33 Japanese men ages 67 to 72 completed a 5-week endurance exercise program. Researchers tracked gut bacterial diversity throughout. Changes in bacterial diversity were negatively correlated with changes in blood pressure. As gut diversity shifted favorably, blood pressure moved favorably too. A broader body of research in older adults has found something consistent. Long-term structured physical activity is associated with greater microbial richness and diversity compared to sedentary peers. This doesn't require intense training. Daily walking, already discussed in earlier videos on this channel for other reasons, is realistic and low impact, consistent with the population data behind this habit. Timing matters somewhat too. Movement earlier in the day appears to align more naturally with the same circadian cycle already discussed for sleep. A morning or early afternoon walk isn't required, but where a choice exists, it's a reasonable default over late evening exercise. None of this means evening movement carries no value. When timing is flexible, earlier in the day appears to be the slightly better default. Not a rule that overrides whatever schedule actually gets you moving. Habit 3. Actively manage chronic stress, not just endure it. This habit deserves an honest, direct look at what the evidence actually shows. In animal models, the mechanism is remarkably well established. Chronic stress and elevated cortisol directly damage the tight junctions holding your gut lining together. That measurably increases intestinal permeability and triggers systemic inflammation. Human evidence tells a related but different kind of story. Chronic psychological stress is strongly associated with altered gut bacterial composition, also with conditions involving gut barrier dysfunction, including irritable bowel syndrome. That's real, replicated evidence. It's correlational, not the same direct cause and effect chain proven in animal studies. It's worth stating plainly why this distinction matters. Overstating human proof here would be exactly the kind of overclaim this channel avoids. What can be said honestly is this. The biological pathway connecting stress hormones to gut barrier damage is well established. The size of that effect in everyday human stress outside a laboratory is still being actively researched. Any practical stress reduction practice, brief breathing exercises, a short walk, time away from screens, likely works through this pathway. The specific technique matters less than the actual practice of it. A 5-minute breathing exercise done daily matters more here than an hour-long session done once and forgotten, even without a study measuring that exact practice against gut permeability. Consistency appears to be doing the real work in every mechanism described in this video so far. There's no clear reason stress management would be the exception. One concrete starting point. 4 seconds in, hold for 4, 6 seconds out. Repeated for 2 minutes, once daily. It costs nothing and fits anywhere. It gives the practice a specific shape instead of a vague instruction to relax more. Habit 4. Keep your eating window consistent, not just your food choices. When you eat appears to matter alongside what you eat, through a mechanism separate from calories or nutrients entirely. A multi-center study of adult men compared a time-restricted eating pattern against unrestricted eating timing. The time-restricted group showed significantly greater gut microbial diversity, along with measurable increases in core circadian clock gene expression. The same group also showed significant reductions in total cholesterol and triglycerides, alongside an increase in HDL cholesterol. The mechanism ties directly back to the 24-hour cycling explained earlier. Your gut bacteria use meal timing as one of their primary cues for that cycle. An unpredictable eating schedule, breakfast at 6 some days and 11 others, appears to blur that signal, independent of food quality. This doesn't require a strict fasting protocol. Eating within a similar window most days, even a wide one, gives a more consistent circadian cue, more than eating at random hours out of convenience. A 12-hour window, say 8 in the morning to 8 at night, is a realistic target, consistent with the multi-center study already described. This isn't the same as extreme fasting protocols sometimes discussed elsewhere. It's closer to simply not eating at random hours across a 16 or 18-hour span. Late-night eating, specifically close to bedtime, appears to work against this mechanism twice over. Once by extending the eating window later than it needs to be. Again, by overlapping with the hours your body is preparing for the sleep-driven reset already described. A birthday dinner or holiday meal that runs late occasionally won't undo this habit. What matters is the general pattern across most days, not strict enforcement on every single one. Habit 5. Stay socially connected, deliberately. Social isolation reaches your inflammatory system through a pathway most people would never think to connect to their gut. A large study using the National Health and Aging Trends Study tracked over 4,000 adults, 65 and older. Researchers measured 2 inflammatory markers directly: interleukin-6 and C-reactive protein. Social isolation was associated with significantly higher levels of both, even after adjusting for age, income, smoking status, and existing chronic conditions. This finding has been replicated across multiple large studies, though the size and consistency of the effect varies somewhat between them. Some analyses find the stronger link with interleukin-6 specifically, others with different markers. What replicates consistently is the general direction. Isolation correlates with measurably higher systemic inflammation. This matters specifically for this channel's audience. Social circles often shrink after retirement, after children move away, after the loss of a spouse or longtime friends. This isn't a minor lifestyle detail. It's a measurable input into the same inflammatory system every other habit in this video is working to calm. A standing weekly call, a regular meal with a friend, a recurring group activity. The specific form matters less than the consistency of real, ongoing connection. Quality appears to matter more than quantity here too. A single meaningful weekly conversation outweighs several brief, surface-level exchanges based on how these studies generally define and measure connection. This matters as reassurance as much as instruction. Building an active social calendar isn't the actual target. 1 or 2 real relationships maintained consistently appear to matter more than a wide but shallow network. A specific, low-effort way to start. Pick one person and one recurring day, a Sunday call, a Wednesday coffee. That turned a vague intention into something that actually happens. Habit 6. Limit antibiotics and anti-inflammatory medication to when they're truly necessary. This habit is about caution, not avoidance. Antibiotics save lives, and this video isn't suggesting otherwise. What's well documented in microbiology research is the collateral effect. Broad-spectrum antibiotics reduce gut bacterial diversity substantially. Recovery back to a prior baseline can take months, sometimes longer, and isn't always complete. Frequent unnecessary use of over-the-counter anti-inflammatory medication has a related, if less dramatic, effect on gut lining integrity over time. This isn't a call to avoid antibiotics when a doctor determines they're needed. It's a reason to ask a simple question. When a prescription is offered for something that might resolve without one, is it truly necessary this time? A related, smaller habit worth naming. When antibiotics are genuinely necessary, ask about a probiotic to take alongside them, timed a few hours apart. A reasonable question that costs nothing. That conversation with your own doctor is the realistic version of this habit, not self-directed avoidance of medication. The same caution extends to over-the-counter anti-inflammatory medication, used occasionally for minor aches. Frequent unsupervised use over months or years is where the gut lining effect becomes relevant. Not the occasional dose for a headache, a useful, specific question to bring to any appointment where antibiotics come up. Asking directly whether this particular infection is bacterial or viral takes the conversation out of the abstract. Something a doctor can answer concretely. There's a reason this channel keeps returning to the same underlying idea. Video after video, regardless of which topic that week's title mentions. This connects directly to territory already covered here. The pancreas, kidney, lung, and skin videos each described a specific food reaching a specific organ through your gut. This video adds a different category of input entirely. Not what reaches your gut, but when and how your daily rhythm does. It's worth being precise about what 8 habits can and can't claim. None of these single-handedly cure a diagnosed inflammatory condition. This video isn't suggesting they should. What the evidence supports is narrower. 8 specific daily patterns, each connected through real research at genuinely different levels of evidence. All reaching the same inflammatory pathway underneath nearly everything else this channel has covered. It's also worth naming the honesty this video leaned on throughout. Exercise and meal timing rest on direct human trial evidence. Sleep and social isolation rest on large observational studies with real, replicated associations. Stress management rests on a mechanism proven in animals and only correlated in humans. Antibiotic caution rests on well-established microbiology, not a single new trial. Presenting all 8 as equally strong would be dishonest. Presenting the differences clearly is what lets you weigh them accurately. That's a deliberate choice this channel keeps making, video after video. A weaker piece of evidence, labeled honestly, is more useful than a strong-sounding claim that doesn't hold up. Habit 7. Get outdoor light within the first hour of waking. Morning light exposure helps synchronize your body's central circadian clock, housed in a small brain region called the suprachiasmatic nucleus. That central clock, in turn, helps set the peripheral clocks running in tissue throughout your body, including your gut. This connects directly to the 24-hour bacterial cycling explained in the mechanism section. Your gut clock and your central brain clock stay aligned partly through consistent external cues. Morning light is one of the strongest cues your body responds to. Misalignment between these clocks, sometimes caused by irregular light exposure, is part of the same disruption. Already discussed for irregular sleep and unpredictable meal timing. 10 to 15 minutes outdoors close to waking is the realistic version of this habit. Even on an overcast day, outdoor light substantially outmatches typical indoor lighting for this specific purpose. Cloud cover isn't a reason to skip it. Standing near a bright window helps somewhat. Stepping outside remains meaningfully stronger since window glass filters out some of the specific light wavelengths involved. Coffee on a porch, a short walk to get the mail, standing outside reading the morning news. None of it needs to be framed as exercise. They just need to happen outdoors, early, most days. Habit 8. Slow down while you eat. This final habit works through a more modest mechanism than the other 7. Worth saying directly, rather than inflating it to match the others. Eating quickly limits how much time your body's natural digestive signaling has to activate before a meal ends. Chewing thoroughly and eating at an unhurried pace gives digestive enzymes more contact time with food. It also gives your gut more time to send fullness signals before a large volume of food has already arrived. Poorly broken down food reaching your large intestine intact shifts what your gut bacteria ferment, compared to food already processed further upstream. There's no single large trial isolating this habit exactly the way the others in this video are backed. What exists is a well-established, related body of digestive physiology. A plausible mechanism connecting it to the same fermentation process discussed throughout this video. Eating without rushing, ideally away from a screen, is the realistic version of this habit. 20 minutes for a meal, roughly, is a reasonable, informal target. Putting utensils down between bites is a small physical habit, not a mental discipline. It tends to be the most reliable way to actually slow down. Consider how this fits into the larger pattern this channel keeps building. Food reaching your gut through one door. Sleep, movement, stress, timing, connection, and caution reaching it through 7 other doors, entirely separate from anything on your plate. That's not a coincidence. It's the same reason this channel keeps returning to the gut, one input at a time. There's a fair question worth asking about why these 7 non-food pathways get so little attention compared to diet advice. Part of the answer is simple. Food recommendations are easier to sell, easier to package, and easier to measure in a before and after photo. A consistent bedtime doesn't photograph well. That doesn't make it less real. Go back to where this video started. 70% of your immune system, wrapped around your intestines, responding to far more than just food. You now know 8 specific ways to reach that system directly. A consistent sleep schedule, daily movement, active stress management, honestly framed, a steady eating window, real social connection, caution around unnecessary antibiotics, morning sunlight, slower, more deliberate eating. None of this replaces the food-based habits already covered on this channel. If anything, it completes the picture those videos started. 8 ordinary daily patterns, each backed by real research at real, clearly stated levels of evidence. Not a single vague instruction to reduce stress and hope your gut improves. There's something worth sitting with here, beyond the 8 habits themselves. For years, gut health got reduced to a single question. What did you eat today? This video was never about replacing that question. It was about 7 others that matter just as much and get asked almost never. You don't need all 8 at once either. Starting with one is enough. The one that fits most naturally into a day you're already living. a consistent bedtime, a short walk, one recurring call with someone you care about. Small, repeatable choices. Not a complete overhaul of your life starting tomorrow. A realistic week might look like this. The same bedtime most nights. A walk most mornings. Outdoors, if possible. Meals inside a similar window each day. One real phone call or visit with someone you care about. None of that requires a tracker or a plan on paper. It requires noticing which of these 8 habits already fits into a day you're living and choosing it on purpose. That word, repeatable, matters more than any single number in this video. None of these 8 habits demand perfection either. Missing a night of good sleep, skipping a walk, eating late once. None of that undoes the pattern built across the surrounding weeks. This system responds to trends, not single days. If only 2 or 3 habits feel realistic right now, starting with just those is completely reasonable. This video isn't a checklist to complete all at once. It's a menu to draw from, gradually, at whatever pace actually fits your life. This system doesn't reward one perfect week, followed by a month of forgetting about it. It responds to consistency, day after day. The same quiet way it's shaped your health your entire life, whether or not anyone ever explained it before today. If today's explanation gave you something more useful than the usual advice ever did, follow this channel. New videos breaking down research exactly like this arrive every few days. Send this to someone managing chronic inflammation or simply trying to feel better as they get older. Someone who has never heard their sleep schedule connected to their own gut, this directly. Leave a comment with the one habit from this list you're most likely to actually start this week. There's a good chance the research has more to say about it than you'd expect. Think back to how this video opened. A number, 70%. Describing a system almost nobody thinks about outside of what they eat. What's changed now isn't the biology itself. It was running exactly the same way before this video and after it. What's changed is what you have now. A fuller picture of what reaches it. 8 specific ways to work with it. And the actual research behind each one presented honestly, strength by strength. Your gut was never only listening to your fork. It was listening to your entire day. This video is for educational purposes only and is not a substitute for medical advice. Always consult a healthcare professional.